Hey friends, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. So I've had a wonderful day of painting by myself. I feel like these portraits have just taken longer than they should have. And so I took efforts just to paint fast and hard. Let's get official. This is Daily Art Adventure number 885. Woohoo! Essentially painting backgrounds on portraits. Hey, let me take a minute and show you what I've already done. And whoops, all of these are either all finished or 95% finished. That's an unscientific number. Bear with me just a minute. Let's sort it out. So, whoops. Okay, so here's what always happens, and you probably know this if you're an artist. You think you're done, and then you look at it again with fresh eyes and go, oh, darn. So that's the way I feel about that face right there. I need to work on it a little bit more. So I'll work on that, but I think the painting is essentially done. And I need to raise up the red of her shoulders so it doesn't look like her head's so far removed off her body. That's a mistake. And her face, maybe I can just fix it with a little smearing. No, not quite. Anyway, that one's, like all of these, almost done. Let me show you another one that I think is all finished. This is the lovely lady named Nancy. That's all I know her as, is Nancy. Very soft portrait, partly because, and very large portrait, very different. It's soft partly because the photograph that I had to go from is very soft. All right, so that one's, I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm pretty happy with these last two as well. Here's Wright's parents, Jim and Sally. Hang on just a second, let me move you. I worked mostly on the background today, although I did go in and I wasn't happy with Jim's face. I did some technical, mechanical checking to make sure he's more accurate now than he was. And finally, here's the last one. I'm just showing you what I've been doing. It's kind of like show and tell, isn't it? Here's, again, lovely Holly. I look forward to including two of these paintings in my wedding painting portfolio. And I think she's all finished. No, I'm going to work on her hand a little bit. I'm going to work on it right now just by smearing it. Oh, okay. Oh. And anyway, every time I look at it, I think, wait, I thought I was done. All right, so the one painting that I'm clearly not finished with is this painting of Wright. I'm quite happy with his face, although it's not unimaginable that I might do something about touch up his face yet again. And other than that, I don't have anything really exciting to share with you. I'm painting his jacket, following my normal procedure, which is for painting a realistic, shaded, variegated, complex subject matter. Cover the entire surface with a mid-tone, green in this case, and then do dark details, and finally light details. So I'm on the light details right now. If Wright's jacket were intended to be or needed to be, photorealistic, or that's an exaggeration, super realistic, very realistic, which it doesn't. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave his face quite finished and everything else less so, but more realistic than it is right now. I was going to say, if I were pursuing a more realistic image or sense on his jacket here, then I would let everything I'm doing today, I would let everything dry, and then I would come back tomorrow and do those same 3 steps again. That is mid-tone over everything translucent, not covering up, of course, what's already here, but translucent green, and then dark details and light. So I do the same exact process, same exact 3 steps tomorrow. I hope I'm not going to do that. I really want to finish this today. So in that case, what I am going to do is, this is not my final, this is my mid-tone light highlights, and I'm going to come back with at least 1, maybe 2, conceivably even 3, I hope not, more layers of light green, lighter. So this is medium light green, and I'll come back with lighter and lighter again. Now, painting fabric is such a good, fun, and challenging subject matter. Every time I see one of those medieval paintings where like Hans Holbein, the painting of, Henry VIII, or Henry VIII is what I meant to say. I can just feel that painter just showing off, just strutting like a rooster, after he painted these folds of fabric. There's no real secret to painting fabric. Well, there is. And it's called TIME. It just takes a long time, just a lot of observation. You look carefully, then you look more carefully, then you look carefully again. So it's not the same kind of pressure as capturing a perfect likeness on a face. In that case, the exact measurements are paramount. But in order to achieve believable fabric, I will tell you what I'm not going to take time to do, but it's very careful attention to hard edges and soft edges. That's what makes fabric, in my opinion. That's the main element. That's what makes fabrics look real or believable. The folds in it, and it's a hard edge here, a soft edge there. Hard here, soft there. And again, you just have to study, look at every single, you can't go fast like I'm doing right here. I'm trying to do a sort of a shorthand, impressionistic treatment of his jacket, because it would take literally hours. And it would be fun, in a way, but I'm not being paid enough for that. And it fits with my style, as you know. Like my wedding paintings, for instance, the faces typically are quite realistic, but everything else, same thing you saw with some of the finished paintings I just showed you. Hello, Banger 355 TW. Uh-oh, troubles. Are you talking about troubles on my portraits? Yeah, that's very possible. And light blue's going to be right back. All right. I just switched to a slightly darker light green. Does that make sense? It's still lighter than what's here, but it's not as light as, I want more attention up here than I do down here. I'm going to go ahead here and start working on the logos. There's a number 11 on his sleeve, and there's some white ribs around his sleeves, around his wrists. I'm actually painting with a pale green color right now. It looks white. It looks pretty white because I'm painting it on a dark green, but it's actually a distinctly green color on my palette. What that does is allow me to, this is just the first layer of this logo. It allows me to come back once or even twice, again depending on how Croft, C-R-O-F-T. Ravenscroft is the name of the school. Oh, and it is a baseball. I just didn't realize that until just now. I thought my buddy Wright had told me it was a baseball jacket, but I hadn't caught that until right now. Now I see. State champs. Woo-hoo. All right, I'm going to just mix up a paler green. Getting a little static. I think we were there for a second. Should I be using smaller brushes? It's possible. The rule, of course, is always use as large a brush as you can get away with, but there are limits to that, and I'm kind of pushing the limit a little bit here with a brush this big. I'm still using actually a pale green color on my brushes. Again, still it looks pretty white because of the environment, because of the colors around it. this is my second layer of light green, lighter than the first, of course. And yes, certainly for some parts of this anyway. I'll come back with a third application of even lighter still. And of course I've got to do the entire background on this particular painting, which is right sitting on the hood of his Jeep. Never paint with your fingers. I feel obligated to say that every time that I paint with my fingers. I also feel obligated to say, okay, but remember, I don't have any cads or cobalts, no cadmiums, no cobalts on my palette, so taken some precaution. Oh, dirty brush. I thought I'd clean them all up. I feel like I spend half my life cleaning brushes. All right, I'm going to call that good enough for now on his coat. So let's start. As you can see, I've already blocked in. Good, light blue is back. We can get to work now. Colorful easel, do you mean, hello Barbara. Colorful easel, do you paint with two hands? Is that what you mean? Banger 355, wonder why I'm not seeing the stream for some reason. Huh. I don't know. It seems that others are seeing it. I do not know. Yeah, try something. Try what Barbara says. Go out and come back in. Okay, mixing up a dull um, bluish green, grayish blue green. Really don't want it this opaque up here. I want to see more. So I have a hunch I'm going to be wiping some of this off. In other words, I want a translucent color up here, not opaque. Opaque is flat, dead. Opaque colors are dead. I don't know if you know that or not. Yeah, bear with me just a second. I'm going to pick up a rag. Lift off some of that. Let some of the more of the underpainting, which is, of course, the underpainting itself is layers and layers of paint. It's not like a single layer. Okay, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm practicing what I preach, practicing this trick of doing a mid-tone. In this case, it's a fairly pale, a light mid-tone, but I'm doing a mid-tone over the whole area of the roof of his Jeep and the nondescript background. I don't know where. I should have asked. Right, if you come on, tell me where are you sitting? Is that beach back there? I don't know. Anyway, now that's done. I'm going to. All right, banger. It worked. Cleaning these brushes, but not too thoroughly, just giving them a once over. Now, practicing what I preach. So that's the mid-tone over a wide area. It's going to be dark. You see the photograph there, so you can understand a little bit what I'm doing here. No, I want to mix up a dark bluish green and very, very gray. I'm dark, very dirty, I should have said. Dark bluish gray. And then, so this is a car rack, on top of his Jeep. wouldn't expect people to identify what I'm painting right now. If until the rest gets painted. In other words, it's a car top carrier. This is the roof of his Jeep. Painted in quite an abstract manner, as you can see. And yeah, it doesn't bother me a bit. People can't tell what it is yet. Okay, step one, which again you saw, it's the same thing I did on the letter jacket when I started broadcasting right in the middle. Step number one, mid-tone over the whole area. In this case, that quote-unquote mid-tone was quite light, and it was, again, pretty typical, translucent, neither transparent nor opaque, but translucent. And but mid-tone in context of what it is that I'm painting. Mid-tone, and then dark details, and then the last thing I'll do is follow up with dark details. Light details, I'm sorry. So mid, then dark, then light. And as I say way too often, I'm sure, in that order. The order is the key element here. Well, couldn't we do it the other way? Yeah, of course you could do it the other way, but learn the best way first, which is what I think this is, and then give yourself permission to experiment, branch out, and so forth. But don't experiment and branch out until you've mastered something. My goodness, I wish I had been able to learn at the feet of a master. At some point, it would have been fun. Okay, I think that's far enough down. Now back up to the top, and if I do this in a fairly simple, three-step process, mid, dark, light, and this will be the last layer. If, on the other hand, I do it in a simple method, then the last phase, the last stage, which is the light, which I'm doing right now, I'll do it at least twice. Does that make sense? So if I'm doing the economy version, I'll come back and do just lights again on top of these lights. If I do the deluxe version, which I think would be overkill in this particular painting, it's not needed. But if I were to do, if I were pursuing a more realistic background painting, then again, I would ideally wait until all of this is dry. So presumably tomorrow, I'm using liquid at the moment. So I would come back tomorrow and do those 3 steps over again. Mid-tone over everything, then darks, then lights. So give that a try. Anytime you're painting a complex subject matter, complex texture that requires, modeling, shading, so forth, try that 3-step process, and that'll so clearly, I'm not trying to indicate or render any identifiable object. beyond the roof of his Jeep. All this just atmosphere. Which really makes it a lot of fun, because I love abstract painting. So that's essentially, that's all I'm doing right now. It's just painting abstract. Now that I'm getting down here, of course, there's the car rack, so things begin to get identifiable. But not much. And as you can see, I'm working pretty hard to make sure that that this busyness doesn't compete with his face, right? So the bars fade, get fuzzy as they get close to his head. And as I predicted, I'm mixing up a even lighter color. And it's just, where do I want it? I think I want a little bit, just a little bit of halo. It's a little bit of an angelic halo here. Not really. More of an aura than a halo, wouldn't you say? Okay, so one of the things I am being a little bit careful to do is make sure that I don't end up with one color all the way across the top of the painting, right? The principle is, I also don't want it symmetrical, so the principle is boundary ratios. That's how I learned it. I learned that from Bob Rankin years ago, and it has helped me so much, and a lot of other people over the years. The fuller expression of that principle is you want a different number of major color groups along each boundary of your painting. So first of all, this has nothing to do, this does not apply to round paintings. I've never said that before. This only applies to rectangles or squares or other, what is it, multi-sided. All of a sudden I'm forgetting the name for multi-sided object shape. Anyway, so different number on each side, and a number 1 on any side is, let's just say, distasteful, not a pleasant effect. So there, it's one color all the way here, then it's light, then it's back again. So I've got a 3 up there. All right. I'm going to grab some larger brushes. And, oops, hang on just a second. I'm going to raise this easel up, which is just a little bit of a job. Not bad. Because now I want to work basically from his shoulders down. There we go. Raise you guys up just a little bit. And some larger brushes. Not huge, just bigger. A number 8 and a number 10. All right, and this painting it's green at the top. And by the way, the color up there I'm taking largely from Wright's photograph, so there is a degree of realism, if you will. To call it realism is a bit of an overstatement, but the color green is suggested to me by his reference, and I kind of liked the way it looked. So we'll see. I might change my mind tomorrow. Wouldn't be surprised if I come back and decide I don't like that green. What was I thinking? And I would glaze, in this case probably transparent glaze, like an oxide red would look wonderful. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I won't make that decision right now. Cross that bridge later. All right, so I'm mixing up a dirty blue translucent, so it has a little bit of white paint in it, a little bit of titanium. Right, it's not transparent, and it's just got a whole bunch of blues, but with dirty brushes. Does that make sense? So don't ask me for the recipe. Little ultramarine, little phthalo, little purple, little raw umber, little green, little white. Still mixing. I think I don't have enough of a pile mixed up. All right, you ready? All of a sudden, let's darken that corner. As you could probably imagine, I'm not going to make the Jeep in the painting as clear and prominent, important. It will definitely be identifiable as a Jeep, and we'll have the EEP, missing the J. So I'm not going to try to lose the Jeep by any means, but I'm also not going to try to do a portrait of a Jeep, so to speak. Again, inappropriate, I think, for a portrait of a person. The vehicle should take a back seat, clearly, and it will, but it'll be identifiable. This is an old photograph. This is Wright I think he's now 40 years old, so this is 22 years ago. So his Jeep, and I'm doing it because this is his parents' favorite, or one of their favorite photographs of their son. So kind of special, very nice of Wright. He's doing it for his parents, painting of him for his parents. Oh, he's wearing some blue shorts as well. When I'm painting kind of crazy like this, I really do find that the two-handed thing, not only does it let you accomplish or complete it more quickly, but I paint better, I believe. I paint looser than if I was just using one hand. Because my brain can't quite keep up with what two hands are doing, so I think I paint with more abandon, which I think serves me well. All right, done with those big brushes. Back to the number, what are these? Two number 4s. I usually prefer to have two different brushes, a different brush in each hand, but didn't do that this time, so that's number 4 filberts. Hey, lots of chats here, let's see. You can see me my tablet. Yeah, yo, and yeah, it takes at least, I would say 20 seconds at least for it to appear. All right, standing up for a moment. All right, so that's the mid-tone over the whole area, right? Now, mixing up a dark dirty blue. This can be transparent. Doesn't really matter, but it's a little bit. I'm using some of the color I just had a while ago. It has a tiny bit of opacity in it, tiny bit of white, but it's a dark blue. Okay, and so I'm going to begin drawing his Jeep, so to speak. By the way, you may be noticing that, especially with his jacket, I am quite intentionally losing edges here and there, blending, making edges soft. On the whole, I mean, this is very sharp right around his face. But that will be the only part of the painting that will have edges that sharp. Everything else will be considerably more diffuse. I can't quite tell what everything is in this photograph. We're looking through the front seat. So this is a headrest on the passenger. This is a back corner post. This is the back of the rearview mirror. Oh yeah, and like a high school kid, he's got something hanging from his rearview mirror. Oh, and I wiped out part of his a strap on his jacket just got wiped out. Well, we'll see if I return that or not. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like I have to interpret some of what's going on here so that I don't create too much confusion. I'm using a fair amount of liquid, I'd say. And so everything I'm doing here would actually be dry to the touch, at least in a couple of hours. Oh yeah, then here on the hood, it's actually almost solid black. I'm not going to make it black, of course. I'm going to make it very dark, transparent blue. This area is all black. Then there's a very distinct whatever you call it, contour of a Jeep. Everybody knows the shape of the hood of a Jeep, don't they? Lake, does everybody know the shape of a Jeep, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys been playing outside most of the day?
Yeah, we just played in the sprinkler a few minutes ago.
Oh, did you really? Is it hot outside?
A little bit.
A little bit. shadow. Once again, this is this is a flash photograph. Not ideal, because it sort of changes all the rules, so to speak, of play of light. And if you were really brave, I suppose, you could ignore what you're looking at and try to invent light, but phew, not for a portrait. I tried that one time. Lived to regret it big time. So I am just on his face. You can see that's clearly a front flash photograph. Same thing here with the highlights on the Jeep and so on. Okay, so in just a minute, when I finish this dark layer, then once again I'll be doing a layer of light details. Light highlights, I usually call it. Hey, right? Say no. Oh, I didn't leave it. Okay, well, maybe I can do that later. I'll try that again later. Light blue as a Jeep. Woohoo! We were talking about your Jeep, right? And I said I can't tell exactly what's going on here, but it looks to me like a typical high school kid. You have something hanging from the rearview mirror. Does that ring a bell? Do you think you did? Anyway, I think that's what that is. It doesn't matter much. It's that line right there. It could be, if it's not something hanging from your rearview mirror, you can make it into something else. And we're getting static again. That's a real mystery because we're not plugged into the power, which is usually what causes the static. I hope you guys aren't getting it. Maybe it's just me. I hope you're not. Are you guys getting that static? The grill here is that's what will make this obviously a Jeep, plus the letters EEP. that will make it obviously a Jeep too. But the grill is the most distinct part of a Jeep, isn't it? Going all the way back to World War II, crazy. I was driving the other day and saw a new Camaro on a side street sitting there as I went by. And I thought that would be an interesting topic. Something about the laws of abstraction or something. Of course, I'm showing my age, but the fact that the engineers, the designers of the Camaro and the Mustang, the two, head-to-head mid-60s muscle car, cool car. How 50 years later, oh yeah, it is more than 50 years later, they're still identifiable. Even though if through all the changes they've gone through, you can still identify, a boy like me, so to speak, who paid attention to such things back in the 60s. That's about when I stopped. No, in the 1970s, about when I stopped paying much attention to cars. But the fact that through all the changes, they still have a similar body shape, just interesting. And certainly like an interesting art question. All right, now, are you guys getting static? I sort of hope it's just me, but I hope it's not just me too. All right, so now the third layer, which is light. Mid-tone over everything, then dark details, then light. And I keep saying that, just it's such a helpful trick. Let me just pull up what I mean by that again. That's exactly what I did on Holly's dress and the flowers. Actually, everything. The sofa, the dress, the flowers, mid-tone, dark details, light details, and in many cases, more than one layer of light, of lightness. And if I'm ever in a hurry, paint, or if I'm doing not a portrait, but a figure, just a person in a painting, very much follow the same formula. On their clothing, on their hair, on their skin tones, on their flesh tones. All right, so now I've got a little uncertain about this. Yeah, now hang on. I want to add some green to this. I have a dirty blue on my brushes, paler than, of course. But then I looked at this and said, no, I want it to be a little more green. Now let's see. Yeah, good. I think that'll work. Yeah, I'm not. Thanks, Jane, for letting me know about the static. I just wiggled a cable. That would be one of those good news, bad news. Good news is I can get the static to go away. The bad news is it might be a bad cable. Well, I've enjoyed my excursion into the world of portraiture again. And by the way, if you decide you want me to do one of you, then by all means, let me know. Of course, $350 per person. I'll be glad to do another one. But I'm looking forward to getting back into my native tongue, if you will, which is painting this way right now reminds me more of my native tongue, my normal painting. That in which the essence of the marks themselves is paramount over the picture. Okay, I want to mix up a more bluish color for this stuff down here in the foreground. And I'm very close to finished up here, I think, except I'm definitely going to come back with a paler, lighter, whatever that was, bluish green. Let's start the EEP over here. Yeah. Now it's looking like a Jeep. Or an Eep anyway. More static, eh? I've got a bit of a conflict down here, a compositional conflict, if you will, because generally speaking, one would not want to draw quite this much attention to the very bottom of the painting, right? And yet I feel like capturing the Jeepiness of the Jeep is kind of important to the story. So little, you know, you have to decide which way to go with it. I'm just going to try to, you know, hit a proper balance, if you will. I am using the photograph quite a bit here for all of this detail down here. All right, let's go back up and mix up a lighter version. Let's see. Yeah, half a tick lighter still. Just dropped you guys completely. Let's see if you stopped broadcasting. You did. Hang on. Oh my goodness. All right, are we back? We are not. We are. Okay. Right? Is that enough Jeep? I'll do more down here, but I haven't ranted. Hello, Jake. Thank you. This is the last of 6 portraits that I've worked on and hopefully finished today. This one needed the most work of all of them. I haven't ranted in a long time about lettering or words in paintings, right? Letters, words in paintings. None of you guys would do this, but some of the people who've never watched my broadcast, they might. If letters appear like here, here, now those are so big, of course, almost a different category. But when letters appear in the painting, too many early journey painters, they lay down, they temporarily set aside their painting brain and they pick up their penmanship brain. It's as if they say, "Ooh, letters, I know how to do this part." And again, they stop painting and they commence to writing letters. And it's always a dreadful misfit. Doesn't look good at all, because penmanship, unless you're doing perhaps a hyper-realistic or very realistic painting, then of course then very realistic letters would be just fine. But if your painting is possessed of good energetic strokes, then you don't want to suddenly change gears, change horses midstream, one could say, and do calligraphy or penmanship for your letters. So that's what you see happening here. Yeah, a little bit of color in this that isn't here yet, and that is there's a kind of a nice thing that's happening along the we're looking through a windshield here, and the windshield of course is tinted, and so we get a little bit of that nice, never paint with your fingers, a little bit of that nice phthalo blue tint. A nice excuse for introducing some color into this otherwise monochromatic Jeep, and also a little bit of realism. Somebody might see it and go, "Oh yeah," whether they'll say it or not, or whatever, it should register as that strip of tinting along the top of a windshield. There's also a running light, parking light, side light right down here, which again, even though it's very close to the edge of the corner of the painting, in fact, just as a nice little excuse to introduce some color. And in this case, so the rule is you wouldn't want to draw this much attention to this part of the painting, except in this case, I think, because I'm trying to indicate Jeepness, that I do want to introduce this that much. That's good enough, I think. Now, uh-oh. Oh, my mic got unplugged. Sorry. Thank you. All right, do we have sound now? Yeah, sorry about that. You guys took a spill a little while ago and crashed onto the floor. And silly me, I forgot that meant my microphone came unplugged. I have a hunch of all my 6 portraits, this is the one I'm most likely to revisit tomorrow with some glazing and other finishing touches. Not sure that I'm crazy about the green in juxtaposition to the warm flesh tone of Bright's face. But nothing I can do about it right now because, well, because it's all wet. So it'll be dry tomorrow, and I'll revisit that then. Let me think, what else do I need to do? Finding the jacket just a little bit contrasty. So fuzzing up a little bit of the jacket a little bit. We'll see. But I think that does it for me. Let me get you guys out of the way for a moment. Joe Cool, right, sitting on his Jeep, circa 1998. All right, I'm just going to do one more little bit of touch-up before I call it a day. Hopefully tomorrow I will start on a commission cityscape 3 by 5 foot painting. All right, this sweet little girl. Let me find her picture. It's over here in the stack somewhere. Nope, it's on the floor. I thought I was all done with her. I get the curse of portraiture. You're never done. Every time you look at it, you see something new. And one of the things I see new here is I need to raise up the red of her shirt so it doesn't look like her head is quite so high above her shoulders. And now I need to do some blonde trusses. But that's a good word, isn't it? Trusses. I'm a regular Jane Austen. I use the word truss. And her golden trusses. think that's better. All right, all I'm going to do now is sign these 5 paintings, 6 portraits on 5 paintings, so that the ones that are finished, I can hopefully varnish them tomorrow. The one that is the least likely to be finished is right. But I'll visit that tomorrow. All right, and you guys do not need to watch me sign paintings. I'll save that rant for another time. Thanks for watching, y'all. Hope to be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.